these attorneys are like a bunch of feeding sharks. They naturally get a hold of those people, and they sue the tire company, and they sue the auto manufacturer, and then they sue everybody that can be sued.
Absolutely, yep.
Anyway, so...
Could I ask you another thing, Joaquin? It says in your bio also that Nick Nolte modeled his character in the movie Extreme Prejudice after you. Did he do any research? Did he interview you? How did that go? Because some of our I've gotten some emails from law enforcement officers across the country regarding that. Because I actually seen that movie several times. I enjoyed it with Cash Bailey, and it had a good theme to it. I really enjoyed the movie. What type of contact did he have with you in researching his part?
Well, whenever they were, the day they signed the contract for the movie, they were out in Hollywood or somewhere, and I was a working ranger in Uvalde at the time, and the writer, the original script writer for that Extreme Prejudice, had come through Uvalde one time and talked to me about some of the activities that I'd been involved in Mexico and things, and so anyway, he kind of played that story up regarding to the type of work I'd done as a ranger, and so Nolte, they called me, his secretary called me and asked me if I'd be willing to take him and show him around and let him ride with me and visit with me, and if he come out to Uvalde, Texas to see me. So I said, well, I'll have to check with the captain. So I called the captain, and I said, Nick Nolte wants to come out and spend a week riding, observing, and stuff like that. And he said, well, that'll be all right, just don't get him killed. And so, but anyway, he come out, and we spent a week, and then he left, went back to Hollywood, and then he come back and spent another week, and then I went out to the movie set in El Paso and spent a week out there as kind of a technical advisor for him. I took a week's vacation from the Rangers, went out there, but anyway, yeah, he's a very good mimic. He dressed like I dressed as a Ranger, and I creased his hat for him so it would look right, and he got in the damn first scene in that movie. He was in an artificial rain deal and got that hat wet, and it looked like hell. And then when I showed up in El Paso, I re-creased his hat for him. But he had 5 more hats that I'd creased for him, brand new Resistals, and he wouldn't wear them. It's one of them things that those actors have about he wanted to wear that same damn hat through the movie.
And you know, during that movie, and people should definitely check it out if you're into Joaquin Jackson, because, like I said, just going on his website, oneranger.org, and looking at the covers of his book, Nick Nolte is a definite shoe-in for you. And one of the things that I noticed, and as a law enforcement officer, before I even started doing research for this project and this interview, was the fact that Nick Nolte, almost for the entire movie, had his top button of his shirt buttoned, which made him look very professional. In that heat, it must have been blistering hot to walk around like that through the whole shoot, but he did it, and like I said, it seems like your demeanor always to be squared away, physically fit, and looking sharp, looking the part, perception.
Right. Nolte, yeah, he dressed like I dressed, and of course I carried I carried a .45 lightweight Commander, and he had one that tried to duplicate those Mexican grips that I got. A friend of mine, I talk about in my book, Felipe Zamora, who was a state policeman down in Mexico. And when I spent a lot of time in Mexico when I was a ranger in Uvalde after Fugitive. And anyway, of course, there's a different ball game then than it is now. I went into Mexico in my state car with my trunk full of ammunition and guns, a bedroll, a coffee pot, C rations. That's before we had these MERs, or whatever they call them now, meals ready to eat or something, yep. MREs. And later on I carried it when they come out with them. I had a case of MREs in my trunk, but before that was C rations. And C rations are MREs. They're not the best food in the world, but they sure stick to your rib because they're made for our fighting men, and they got to have something to stick to their rib.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I traveled into Mexico like that, and in the state vehicle, and if you drove into Mexico today in a state vehicle, they'd arrest you and seize your vehicle and all your equipment, and probably the Department of Public Safety wouldn't never get it back, And so it's a different ball game today, and of course Mexico itself's a whole lot different, but than it was then. It's much more violent now than it was, and a lot heavier.
Did you always get cooperation? Did you always get cooperation from the Mexican government when you work in homicides? Because, like you said, the drug trade was rampant, especially in the early 70s with heroin flying across the border. And I would assume that, and I'm just saying this as an assumption, I would assume that a large part of the Mexican government is corrupt. Caller, I see you. Just stand by.
Okay.
Would you like to take another caller, Joaquin?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Hi, you're on with Jim. I'm cutting you off. Hi, you're on with Mike Joaquin on the Mike Tomorrow Radio Show. Who am I speaking to? Where are you calling from?
Greetings, Mike. This is Eve from the Law Enforcement Rant.
Outstanding. And thank you very much for all of your help, E. What would you like to ask Joaquin, who's probably the best guest ever on the Mike Tomorrow Radio Show?
I just want to let Ranger Jackson know that I was with the Rangers this past weekend, and he knows that. And I wanted to let him know they all spoke extremely highly of Joaquin and his career. They have their meeting, the reunion in Waco every June, and everybody that was there spoke very highly of him. And I just wanted him to know that everybody that was there's over 400 or 500 people there. Everybody spoke extremely highly of him, and they appreciate his work and service for the state of Texas.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's great to hear that your peers feel that way. You know, it's kind of like in my book. I talk more about. I don't talk. It's in my voice, but I talk more about other law enforcement officers and other deals. I never was much. I don't like talking about myself, but you do a book. You know, it's in my word, but those Rangers today are doing a great job, and law enforcement and all is doing a great job today, and I'm very proud of them.
Absolutely. And go ahead, Mike.
One of the things that I found truly amazing that is over 100 Texas Rangers cover a state with 267,000 square miles. So, I mean, you guys are really up against it, man. For me, a Northeasterner, a New Yorker, a New York-style cop, I can't even fathom what it's like to be a Texas Ranger and to solve crimes by tracking people through the woods. I mean, I'm just really in awe of, very humbled by this phone call.
Well, Mike, it's like I mentioned earlier, but out here in this rural area, the county I live in is the biggest county in Texas, Brewster County, and there's probably 10 or 12,000 people in the whole county, and it encompasses about 6,000 square miles. But people out here, they wave at you all the time. You meet them on the road because they're lonesome. And
yeah, I'm sure they do, right?
But of course, it's not like the big cities, you know. And of course, we got big cities too, like Houston's a pretty good sized town, and but nothing like New York. I've been to New York 2 or 3 times. I was amazed about New York is you could walk one block and you're a different country, you know.
You're not kidding.
You know, one place, Chinese town, you go in an Italian village and a French village and a Russian village or whatever, you know, just a block away from each other.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Ranger Jackson, how would you sum up your career, if you could, in a statement? I mean, I know I'm practically asking the impossible, but if you had to, how would you sum up your career, and what advice would you give to young law enforcement officers that are listening out there from across the country?
Well, first thing I'd tell them is just what I said a while ago. If you're gonna ride for the brand, and ride means to work for the outfit that you're hired on to. Be loyal and be faithful to them. And if you can't be your job is a public servant, and that's what your job, protect the lives and property of the people. And that's the main thing that they're set to do, and do it. And there's a tougher job to do it today than it was 40, 30, 40, 50 years ago. But you know, I remember when the Miranda warning first come out. You know, law enforcement thought this is the end of it. You know, this is it. But we worked around that, and we still made good cases.
Yep.
And so things that happen all the time. But I'd say that, you know, I've had a great life. I had a great career as a ranger. I worked with lots of great officers. I worked with a lot of great city police officers, great detectives, sheriff's department investigators. I've worked with a lot of fine officers. A lot of them are not around today, and we're very close, very good friends of mine, and spent a lot of hours together. Of course, as a ranger, I spent a lot of time by myself, just